Aloha guys, it's the kid, 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 it's your boy HH man. This is one that I pretty much wanted to do. You've seen my Star Wars videos building up here and there, but I thought, you know what? Let me do a nice, good old live, full on breakdown, deconstruction of the decline of Star Wars because Star Wars has declined. If people don't know that, and I thought, based off the release of the Rise of Skywalker trailer, it was apt and I think it was timely for this to be done. So I will not be doing this alone. I have a guest, a special guest, who is of course a Star Wars person who really is into the very detailed into Star Wars and who has some very strong views. So Phantom of Hope, welcome aboard.
Yeah, hi, thanks for having me.
So
Yeah,
um
hi.
yeah, hi. Please, anybody, people who are in the chat, just tell me if you hear an echo. Please tell me so that I could then fix it. If you hear an echo or whatsoever, there's a bit of an echo. Just tell me if you hear an echo in the live chat, so then I can sort of fix it. So if not, we can then proceed. But I'll just be checking the live chat if there are any questions or any views. So I think before we really go into how Star Wars has fallen and everything, I think the first thing to do is just to pretty much reflect on the trailer and looking at Rise of Skywalker and pretty much moving forward.
Yeah,
Now, for
yeah,
me,
yeah, yeah.
um, that trailer for me I thought was trash, essentially trash because it didn't offer anything new. It didn't offer anything interesting, and I looked through all the tricks that they saw because, and I think my major issue with it was a trailer is supposed to excite you, especially if it's like the final film in a trilogy. So I'm looking at a main character that is void of any charisma, void of any heroism, void of anything that is remotely interesting, and is just quite frankly dull, extremely dull, and just because again, so if you're watching a trailer like a Star Wars and you can't root for the hero, that's a problem. If there isn't any villain that actually provokes any fear towards you, that's a problem. If there are no characters that you actually like or enjoy, because Finn is trash, Poe is trash, that's an issue. So I looked at the trailer and said, wait a minute. You can show all the big shots, the big moves, the sweeping cameras, the lightsabers, the cool shots, if you don't have the very substance, which is that I care about the characters, I care what happens. If you don't have that, all the tricks that Abrams, which we're going to talk about, comes through doesn't mean anything. So that was my thing. I thought it was ultimately trash, and I will not be coming anywhere near that film. So, Phantom of Hope, your
Yeah,
thoughts on the trailer?
I mean, yeah, well, first of all, obviously, thanks for having me on your show. It's a great pleasure to be here. I've listened to a couple of well, rather, I've watched a couple of your videos online, and I've always found them very interesting and informative. So I thought it would be a good idea to take the opportunity to come online and share a few thoughts because obviously this is the ninth part of a nine-part saga of this show. So there's this story of that they've chosen to dub the Skywalker saga. And I thought that it'd be interesting to, or rather, be cleansing, to at least for me personally, to be able to come out and maybe share a couple of thoughts. I'm sure, with these things, everyone has opinions. I mean, everybody's got opinions. So it's not literally a case of me sitting, coming up here and saying that I just some random dude um, is the be all end all and the final word in all things Star Wars fandom or all things, George Lucas related. I'm just a guy with an opinion, and I just feel that people should, there's this culture that's blended into the whole hashtag Me Too, hashtag Times Up, diversity. Yeah, all this. You've got the far right, you've got the far left. People call them SJW, social justice warriors, and all that sort of stuff. And the, when you watch this trailer that came out a few days ago, you've got to sit back and ask yourself, because I think even have hope yourself. You kind of made this statement a while ago that on one of your videos, on your video regarding this show, regarding this trailer in question, that if you're a Star Wars fan, what do you gain out of what is stood to be gained out of watching something that is rubbish and trying to fight people who are telling you what you already know? It's very similar because okay, I'm just sort of skimming to the side a bit, but I will hook back in. It's looking at the Scorsese Coppola situation. It's disingenuous of people to sit around saying that, oh, of course it's cinema. Yes, it's cinema. We know it's cinema. Everything is, some guy getting a camera and just filming like a peacock, you know, spitting into the ocean is cinema. We know that. Let's not try to be clever. Scorsese and Coppola are older guys who didn't come up in this social media world where every single quotation you make, everything thing you say gets taken verbatim and broken down and analyzed, and your verbiage is. But technically, we know it's all cinema, but we all know what they are saying. These are people who their friends are the kings of blockbuster movies. Spielberg, Lucas, these guys put the pop in popcorn. So these guys are not going to sit here and tell you that they're against blockbuster films or moneymaker movies. They are telling you that even for blockbuster movies or superhero movies, we are being given rubbish.
Particularly
So,
Marvel. And because remember, the key things that they mention Marvel
no,
in particular.
but they can mention Marvel if they want. The truth is that it's all rubbish. Like, as of the turn of the millennium, it's rubbish. If you're going to look at the Sony movies, the Spider-Man movies with Tobey Maguire, you're going to
Oh
look
yeah,
at
trash, complete trash.
they are rubbish. They are rubbish. Now, linking this in with Star Wars is like, if you're a superhero fan, how can you insult people for telling you what would ultimately make the quality of what you watch better? If you can tell these guys that what you're giving us is rubbish, it will have to be better. The truth is that the reason why Bob Iger's, Downey Jr.'s, Benedict Cumberbatch's, James Gunn wrote a bloody essay about grandfathers and grandmothers. The reason why everybody is scrambling to debunk or break down or negate or rebuff what these people have said is simply because they know it's true. And they know they've been broken. It's simply the same as Michael Jackson waking up one day and just saying that Justin Timberlake, you're rubbish. It's exactly the same thing. If you just woke up one day and said Justin Timberlake is rubbish, you can talk. Basically, some people, history has given them the whip. It's given them the hammer of justice. History has given Michael Jackson the power to cast judgment on people when it comes to song, dance, and entertainment. History has given Spielberg, Lucas, Scorsese, Coppola, arguably De Palma's, Ridley Scott's, the power, the judiciary to cast judgment. Everybody knows this. It's an unwritten fact. If Marlon Brando in acting says a guy is rubbish, which he said about Burt Reynolds never got over it.
Yeah, and also but Reynolds, even deep down, he knows that you're not really that dude,
And
really.
he knows it, which is why till the point that this guy was in his 80s, he was still telling the story of when Marlon Brando blanked him or laughed at him at a dinner party. So at the end of the day, when these guys talk, it's reality. So the point I'm saying here is that if George Lucas is not happy, see, George Lucas needs to shut his face because you've sold your thing, so you don't deserve anything. But when George Lucas says he's happy, he's unhappy, or Scorsese say that there's an issue with something, or Frank Miller says that Batman wasn't in the Dark Knight, how, as fans or consumers, is your initial reaction to laugh at them or try to invalidate them or discredit them? That is the real reason why why we got that trailer that we got. Not because of that I'm trying not to say it. I mean, that's
I
not.
mean, try and keep it as PC as
Yes, I
possible,
mean,
but
not
do what needs to be done.
yeah.
Do what needs to be
It's
done.
it's like not because of that clown J.J. Abrams, not because of that idiot Kathleen Kennedy, not because of that football-headed fool Rian Johnson. It's because of the fans, the consumers. They are the ones who dictate. And make no mistake, what happened with Solo sent shockwaves through that company. Kathleen Kennedy has only popped her head over the surface once publicly, and that was to promote Solo. When Solo bombed, she went back into hiding. That is meant to be the leader of a company, by the way. She went back into hiding. Kathleen Kennedy,
Trash
J.J.
leader,
Abrams,
coward,
yeah,
coward.
Kathleen Kennedy and J.J. Abrams have not done any mainstream media in 4 years. Well, no, well, JJ hasn't done it in 4 years. Kennedy has done it in 2 years. The only media they deal with Disney, D23, um, Star Wars Celebration, all very controlled media junkets. That's all they do. And even within these very controlled media junkets, there have been little tricklings of questions about, are you trying to derail things? Are you trying to repair anything? And of course, J.J. Abrams spends all this time trying to act as if nothing is wrong.
No,
We,
I'm not, because in all sorry,
yeah,
in all of these things,
yeah,
it's all because, which is why I hate Comic Con. It's all these shills, and I think that is the thing that I hate about Kathleen Kennedy is you only show yourselves in crowds that know that are overwhelmingly supportive, i.e., the complete dim-witted, airheaded Star Wars fans that will accept anything. So nobody is going to ever ask you the hard questions ever in those rooms that are controlled, which for me shows that Kathleen Kennedy, you are a complete and utter coward.
of course, of course. And what we are going to see is that ultimately, this movie is going to have to come out. Just like Solo, no amount of media regulation, spin will change that. That's what Solo showed you. It's going to come out. And as I've said, this movie is not going to break 1 billion. It will not break 1 billion. I have seen spoilers for this film, Reddit and different places, that I read a month ago. And I think I sent you, HH, a version of one of them. I've seen some more updated ones. And when I initially read these spoilers, I said to myself, these cannot be true. Because if this rubbish I'm reading is what J.J. Abrams is really going to do to try to make sense of the rubbish he has started in Force Awakens, these guys are going to get the biggest kickback they've ever experienced in their lives.
So I mean, but just I mean, coming before we sort of like get into a stage by stage with the whole decline of Star Wars. So without going into detail, or maybe you can even go into detail afterwards, what is it? If you could just sort of like put it in a nice little kind of summation, what is it in particular about the so what is it in particular?
I've lost everything you just said.
Oh, can you hear me now? Wait, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello.
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay. So I just said if you could just do a summation of
Yep.
the spoilers you've read, what is it about them that you think this is just going to be a complete and total crap fest?
Because basically the reason I brought this was because I want to link it to obviously this trailer that you've started talking about, and it's like when I read this stuff, I was like, this cannot be what this man is going to do, because as I said, this will be a shocker, right? But then when I saw the trailer, this trailer is backing up a lot of the stuff I saw from the spoilers. Now, the spoilers may not be completely correct, but I was alarmed by how correct they were. Like, and obviously this is a spoiler because it actually was shown in the trailer, so I can say this. When you've got C3PO
Oh,
standing
oh, oh,
there,
oh, wait, sorry, just break. Someone in the chat says that it's Reddit. It's all speculation. So
no,
this
no,
that's
yeah,
because it's
okay,
Reddit.
and this is, but if the person that asked that question was listening to what I just said, the key is that what I saw in the trailer was backed up. So what I saw in Reddit was backed up when it actually happened in the trailer. And I'm about to actually now show you just how specific it was. In what I saw on Reddit was that there's a point in this thing where 3PO needs to get repaired or needs to have some work done on him. And the thing that is doing the work on him is a little alien. And the alien that is doing the work on him is the alien that the picture was shown in an Empire magazine story about 3 weeks ago. Come on. Come on. That's what I call accuracy, mate. And and that's just one of them. I've said there are a lot of different ones. I can't remember going into all these different bits and pieces. But that is just the nature of how accurate this stuff is. You know, I mean, there's one that says that it starts with her training and it's in a jungle planet. There's a lot of different stuff, and a lot of this stuff is backed up in what I saw in that trailer.
Okay, so let's sort of actually, so let's just sort of go near the beginning. And let's like just walk this down in chronological
Okay,
order
yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
this is pretty much about the what I believe is a slow the decline of Star Wars and how Star Wars has really become destroyed. So I think if we are to start from the very beginning, I think we've got to start here with our friend. Let me just get his picture up. We've got to start with this dude here, Mr. George Lucas, the guy who created everything. And I think the again, maybe you give me your views here. Trilogy, 100%. Those are still the best Star Wars films. Those Star Wars films are still iconic. 4, 5, and 6 for me. And I think we've had this discussion before off the record. I actually believe that the it's the it is the best trilogy of all time. That's what I believe. I believe that it is the best trilogy of all time. So my thing is when he did the prequels, I thought the prequels were crap. Creatively good, some very nice ideas, but the films were just bad films. So he then goes over and he then sells it. So I want to really focus on there.
Yeah.
What was your view when you saw that George Lucas had sold it after what was the pretty much the mishap? Even if they made money, the mishap of the prequels. What was your view when he sold it to Disney? Was it? Did you see that it was the only thing that he could have done? It was a bad move, or you saw this was the pretty much the beginning of the end of Star Wars by the creator giving it up to a company like
You
Disney?
see, it gets very complicated. You see, George Lucas is a very weird man. He's a very weird man. And the truth is that his ego could not handle the fact that he knows he is, as a director, was incapable of doing justice to this beast he had created. And the very first showings of this, inclinations of this, you could see in Return of the Jedi. There were some nice things in Return of the Jedi, but ultimately for me, it was a very big letdown. And you could see there's a lot of the prequels in Return of the Jedi. Now, he's thinking, and here's George Lucas why he's a weirdo. He's thinking that, okay, fine, these guys are insulting everything I'm doing. I'll be damned if I'm gonna just sit back and get Spielberg to direct it or somebody to direct it, and I'm just gonna sit here. No, I'll sell it on to Disney, which I believe that Disney will be able to maximize it, let it keep making cash. But I know that it's never really going to be really Star Wars, but it'll be okay. And importantly, it will be able to keep making money. And why do I, George Lucas, care that it's going to keep making money? Here's why, and here's where things get very funny and weird. George Lucas, the rumor on the street is that George Lucas makes 25% of every character that he has created that is used in the Disney era. Hence why you see this makes you understand a bit more about why they started killing off so many of those characters. Or Luke hardly is shown in Force Awakens. He gets 25%. Now, J.J. Abrams, that little punk, he's done the same thing with everything that he creates, which is why you're now coming into the third part, where there should be nobody new. It should be the conclusion. You've got a new robot, Dio. You've got Zori Bliss. You've got the Knights of Ren. You've got this Jana character from that's going to be Lando's daughter. You've got all this new rubbish coming in, clogging every stuff that should have been dealt with 2 movies ago. Why? Because our good friend JJ thinks he can make some money off his new characters, and that's why none of his characters are dying. That's why they're all still alive. So that's a bit of a backdrop to the rubbish that's going on. The thing about Lucas is that not only does Lucas get 25%, Lucas has also, that 4 billion wasn't complete cash. He bought stock and shares in Disney. So Bob Iger, as he said in his book, was going to slap a gagging order on George Lucas so that he doesn't talk ill of the Star Wars, Disney Star Wars after he leaves.
And but then he then broke that though. He then broke that rule, didn't he?
Never signed a gagging order. Basically, one of the preconditions for the deal was that Lucas signed a gagging order. But Lucas said he will not sign a gagging order. But the deal was not going to happen. But then Lucas said to Bob, at the end of the day, Bob, if I'm going to buy so much stock in Disney, it's not in my interest to speak down about whatever you call it. But it was also during this deal that Bob Iger said that they were going to buy Lucas's ideas for 7, 8, and 9. And trust me, those ideas wouldn't have come cheap. So Lucas is thinking that these guys are willing to spend this amount of money to buy my ideas. We're going to use them. So Lucas, in his childlike naivety, is going to make 4 billion quid and also have people honor his ideas. Very stupid. Now, Bob, maybe to an extent, Bob was probably going to honor his ideas. I probably think Bob was going to honor his ideas. But then when Bob now starts talking to Kathleen Kennedy, and she starts saying all kinds of rubbish, and then, because things that Bob hasn't got a clue about a good Star Wars from a bad Star Wars, he's just a business guy. So when he starts, as they say, he starts seeing the dailies, and he sees sales, and he sees all this rubbish, he thinks that, oh, well, maybe we don't need to, maybe it's a new world, maybe things have changed, and then they now decide to go down a different route. And then you get J.J. Abrams, whose wife is a founding member of #TimesUp. So you've got you've got an ultra-feminist, and you've got a dude who is essentially a slave to his wife, which is why he casts the same looking women in all his movies: Mission Impossible, Alias, Ray, Zori Bliss, all brown-haired women that look like his wife. A man who's basically a slave to his wife. #TimesUp. And you've got, between the both of them, they're going to tell Bobby Iger that, hey, man, you know what? Here's how we want to go with this. And what does Bobby do? He then says, okay, well, we're not going to use George's thing. Then what does George do? He gets annoyed and he says white slavers. But then after that, he keeps quiet because he realizes that it's not in your interest, is it? And that's why he doesn't really talk a lot. Not because he's so righteous, because it's not in his business interests for Star Wars to fail. So you've got a very bizarre and sick bunch of individuals. And the sad thing is that while all this crap is going on, who's losing out the most? Star Wars. So as the ultra-left idiots are getting their kicks out of doing their women's lib, as these stupid guys are getting their kicks out of getting their 20%, 2%, all their rubbish, as that twat, Rian Johnson, is getting his kicks out of trying to make himself seem as, the maverick, carefree, bold film, as everybody's getting their little piece. They all thought that Star Wars was so big, it could withstand and absorb all of this. So it would still be big. They'll make it, because Kathleen Kennedy comes in and she goes, all this, ships, and this doesn't mean anything to me. I mean, if I'm going to hang around here, I've got to at least get involved in something that actually interests me. Politics. Right, social reform. Yeah. I can see myself winning the Nobel Prize.
Oh, no, no,
Awesome. You know,
and I think,
that's
but
it.
see, that was the key thing. I think it's a very key point that you made. People thought that people are going to come out to Star Wars no matter what. No matter anything we do, we can use this for anything we want. They will always come
But
out and watch
AJ,
it.
they were correct to a point. And that's what is so scary. Remember what I mentioned to you when we left the cinema after we saw The Last Jedi? Was that they went so that this is when I saw what they did to Luke, I said, you've gotten so drunk on your aspirations that you've gone too far. The second I saw what happened to Luke, I knew at that moment it is finished. It's finished. It's finished. No matter how hard the fans try, they will not be able to live past this. It will not happen. That's what Kathleen doesn't understand. Everyone is talking. Meh, 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 meh. After you do that to Luke, you have destroyed Star Wars. Nothing that anybody ever does matters. It means nothing. You pick up a lightsaber, you talk about the Force, you talk about nothing means anything. That's what they don't understand. That's what you're looking at. I mean, looking at this trailer, because what shocks me a lot about this is the level of immaturity you're dealing with here. You're looking at a man who one guy makes a helmet, another guy makes his film and he breaks the helmet. Then another guy he comes back and he makes his film and he glues the helmet back. Like, you see, all these idiots, none of them are thinking about what does this make Kylo Ren look like? A man who you cannot decide whether you love your dad or you hate your dad. You want to kill your mom from the spaceship or you don't want to kill your mom from the spaceship. You love Ray or you hate Ray. You don't even decide whether you want to be in the good, the light. In Force Awakens, you're saying that you're being pulled between the light and the dark. And you also don't even know whether you want to keep your own bloody helmet on or not.
Oh, no, no, but I think no, that is what I just. But I think that is why we will be. That's why I want us to sort of like chip down away at the decline of Stars, but specifically with the trilogy, because I think that whole helmet thing goes into just how things have been screwed up.
No,
So,
okay, fine. That's going to be a bit. Sticking to the actual gradual decline. The gradual decline begins at that meeting I told you about, discussing, or well, not told you about, was trying to illustrate about between that Bob talks about in his book between him, Kathy, and JJ. But it is all seen very beautifully in the beginning of this trailer. When she says that people think they know me, everyone thinks they know me. You see, this is the weird thing you have with these people. They literally think that they can just create, like, we haven't earned any, basically a bit like DC and Justice League. You haven't earned it, but to hell with it, we're just going to have a Justice League film. Like, we haven't earned it, but we're just going to say that 3PO, these are 3PO's friends. He's hardly spoke to them. He doesn't, he's hardly tried, but we just get, oh, goodbye to my, and then we're all meant to cry. You've got somebody who, she goes, everyone thinks they, Ray, from the second you showed your plank of wood, dead, expressionless face on these shows of Star Wars, who the hell? I mean, you've managed to do Jedi mind trick, free yourself, use the lightsaber without anybody helping you, beat Kylo Ren, scar him, destroy him. You've done all this sort of stuff. And in Force Awakens, nobody ever asked just who the hell are you?
I mean, no, 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 because
And up until the beginning of this movie, the only person that has ever stopped to just say, "Excuse me, your royal godliness, just who the heck are you?" is Luke. And when he asked her, what did she do? She gave him that same daft, blank, expressionist. She didn't say anything. I think Maskinata said, "Who are you?" Right at the beginning of it, and she goes, I'm no one." I'm like, yeah, sure. So Ray, you surely, I don't know who the hell thinks they know you, but then she does say the line that, well, no one does, which is probably the only true statement that girl has said in the last like 5 hours of film. It's like, then obviously we have Kylo come out and say, well, I do. Look, I'm going to tell you something very honestly. If what happens between Kylo Ren and Rey goes down, and by JJ's track record, I think it will go down. Mate, you haven't got a clue what's going to happen with this movie. Because what I've seen with these people, JJ, Kathy, is that there's a weird kind of stubbornness. I don't know whether he's getting this from his wife or whatever, where it's like people tell you something, and instead of changing it, you double down on it. It's like Rey is now training, right? Basically, why is she now training it? If you claim that we're all threatened by powerful women and we're all racist, bigots, whatever you want to call us, JJ, why is Rey being trained in the beginning of the last episode? I'll tell you why. Because you know she hasn't trained. But here's the double down bullishness of this idiot, which is why he deserves to fail and he will fail. When you watch that movie, she's essentially training herself. And the way they've done it, if anybody is going to train her, it's going to be a woman. But how do we try to cut, to avoid criticism? We'll make it Leia.
No, wait, but very quickly, no, and I have to ask you this because this I am genuinely curious. What is she training for? Because if the reason why Van Damme trained in kickboxer, he was facing against somebody who he knew was incredibly tough, and he wasn't very tough as well. So he knew that. Let me just let this point. Basically, kickboxer, he knew that I have to face this adversary because this is who I have to beat. Rocky knew that I have to face this adversary who is better than me, so and therefore I have to train. Luke Skywalker got destroyed and completely dismembered. Hence why I said I've got to go and basically get into my mind, train, and then prepare myself for Vader. So the whole point in training is you've taken a loss or you are at a point where you're not even very strong. For 2 films, we've seen this person best Kylo Ren, destroy Kylo Ren, lubricates Kylo Ren, completely reinstates flipping Luke Skywalker. So just out of curiosity, because I have no idea, what concept could they have of why the hell this girl is training?
I mean, AJ, to be honest with you, there is no reason, and it's all based on JJ being reactive. But the beauty is that he's reactive, but trying to pretend as if he's not being reactive. Because you're now going to make Rey train. See, here's the problem. And this is what I said a few years ago when we did that talk on Force Awakens. You're going to make
Hello, Phantom of Hope. So yeah. I think we just lost you there. So just retract it. If you say your thing again, I think we just lost you for a few seconds there.
All right, sorry. At what point did you lose me?
Basically, just after I'd said my asked my question.
Okay, so basically, what I was going to say is that it's reactive. The reason why she's training is because JJ is reacting because he knows that she never trained. But keeping in the trend of how these people operate, he's going to do that, but he's going to pretend as if he's not doing it, as if it was always planned. So there's going to make Leia train her. But the thing is that when Leia is going to train her, it's not going to work because Leia is going to be dressed in official robes. And she's not really.
Sorry, just very quick. I mean, just a interesting comment from Kwame Adu, who said that even the chosen one, Anakin, was served up by Dooku and Obi-Wan. The chosen one, Anakin.
But what we're going to find out is that Anakin wasn't the true chosen one. It's all about Rey. I mean, that's what you guys need to understand. It's all about Rey. Luke never mattered. Papa, nobody means anything apart from Rey. But what that stupid, daft little punk Abrams doesn't get is that in your desperation to serve the women, because that's the kind of man you are going to negate 6 films That's what that fool doesn't get. You're going to negate 6 films by bringing, see, you've brought back Palpatine. Either Palpatine is alive or he's dead. If, can you hear me, HH? Hey, HH, can you actually hear what I'm saying?
Yep. Can hear you. Yep.
If Palpatine is dead, he's a ghost. Why does a ghost give a flying flip what anybody does? As in, he wants to rule the galaxy as a ghost? It makes no sense. So he must be alive to be able to gain from the fruits of his labors. Capacity. In any remotely tangible, effectual capacity, you have negated the efforts of Luke and Vader. There is no midway. There's no half and half. That is it. So JJ is he's gonna dream up of all. The truth is that Snoke was not meant to die. The truth is that JJ is a hack, and he was going to do exactly the same thing he did with the Benedict Cumberbatch in Star Trek 2. He tried to use him because he has no creativity, make Cumberbatch a different dimensional kind of Khan. He was going to make Snoke Plagueis. Snoke was going to reveal that at some point, the reason how he got all his scars was when Palpatine tried to kill him in his sleep, but he didn't quite do it. And he's back as Plagueis. Of course. But now he's gone. JJ hasn't got the balls to bring Snoke back. JJ hasn't got the balls to bring Luke back. That's what he wants to do, but he hasn't got the balls to do it. So he's now going to try to say that Palpatine was there all. It doesn't add up, and it doesn't make any sense, and it does not work. And by you bringing Palpatine back, you have screwed up the whole timeline.
Wait. Just very quickly here, because basically I've got someone in the live chat this is from Captain Levi's page. He said, "Palpatine ain't no ghost. The damn leaks are true. I have read them all, and the trailer confirmed almost 60 to 70% of them." So,
well, look, see, what he said is what I've been trying to say, but I'm trying to play devil's advocate, as in maybe he's not, because I've read all those leaks and I know they're true. But let's play devil's advocate and imagine like maybe he isn't really alive. But I know they're true because that's J.J. Abrams. The guy's an idiot. I know they're true. And the level of the percentage accuracy I saw in that trailer, of course, is damn true. And when you now see, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Lando. These guys are racist. They're racist. Lando was a commanding general in the battle that freed the Republic. A commanding general in the Battle of Endor. But you're telling me that 30 years later, when somehow, because Abrams is an idiot, there's now a First Order that's actually more powerful than the Empire ever were. The First Order are now in charge, and the Resistance is a lot worse than the Rebellion ever was. So the Resistance is on the run. Where is Lando? Where is Lando? And then we now find out that Han has been killed. One of his oldest friends. Leia never bothered WhatsApping him to say, "Hey man, apparently Han's dead." So he finds that Han is dead, and he doesn't show his face in The Last Jedi. And then in The Last Jedi, they're at war, they've been depleted, they're on the run, and Lando doesn't show his face. So the same Lando who you introduced in Empire Strikes Back, and as you introduced him, you made him a traitor. You've now shown him to be a deserter of his friends. And when we now, because the only reason that we're showing him now is because you've actually killed Luke and you've killed Han and Carrie Fisher. That's why Billy D. Williams is back. Because as Billy D. Williams said, Lando's never left me. He's been around all this time. Nobody wants to use him. Now you're going to use him, and you're going to feed us some cockamamie, crappy, dumpy, rubbish, bollock story as to why he hasn't been around. Don't give me that crap. I mean, you see, these guys, they're sick. They're sick. And they are going to get found out in December. Like, you're looking at Chewbacca, Chewie. Chewie spent 30 years repairing, augmenting, upgrading the millennium. That guy knows that thing Half the time when we see Chewie, he's doing mechanics. Half the time when we see Chewie, he's doing bloody mechanics on the Millennium Falcon. But this guy meets this stupid little girl, and she's now flying the Millennium. She now owns the Millennium Falcon. Oh my God. You know what? The truth is, can you actually hear me? Because I haven't heard you. HH.
Can you, no, because I always have to mute myself so because of the echo thing.
Okay,
So
but you
yeah,
can actually hear what I'm saying.
yeah. I can hear everything here because actually it's because I was gonna.
What?
Okay, no, go because I was gonna ask something, but I forgot what it was. But go on.
Yeah. It's like, you see, what is going to happen with these people is that what I've seen from that trailer is that JJ doesn't, because I was hoping that, okay, because I want this film to fail. I'm boycotting it. Many people are boycotting it. I want it to fail. But I was scared that maybe JJ might be able to just deliver a trailer that somehow, he's going to show something or do something. And maybe this trailer is sitting on 18 million views, something like about 60,000 dislikes. They tried to run some story that it was selling out. Tickets were getting sold out. People have been online looking. Tickets are not being sold out. There's a lot of availability. I've looked for that opening weekend, Rise of Skywalker, a lot of availability. At the end of the day, and I found out that how does a trailer get released and then Atom Tickets within 5 minutes of it being released put out a story saying that it's selling 45% more than Endgame? These are the same guys that said that Solo was selling twice 100% more than Black Panther. And
No,
then
I mean, no. See, that's the annoying because that's just this. Because see, my thing is this is that, and my hope, and it probably won't happen if somehow Joker makes either as much or close to as much as this Star Wars film. I think it'll be amazing because, and this is where we disagree, and maybe you guys in the live chats, you tell us and give us your thoughts. I believe that Rise of Skywalker is going to make at least 1.2 billion. At very minimum, 1.2 bill. I don't want it to make that. I want this thing to fill, but I am willing. And guys in the live chat, tell me how much you think it's going to make in its overall run. I believe it makes 1.2 billion in its overall run over worldwide.
I'll just add something into what I said. Appendix to what I said before. Like you know that guess who Atom Tickets are a subsidiary of? Guess who owns Atom Tickets?
Disney.
Anyway, look, what I was saying is that instead of the box office, if this thing caps at 1.2, that I will be happy. That would be great. Basically, anything less than The Last Jedi will be the first time in history that a part 3 of Star Wars has not been able to top part 2. It'll be great. Personally, and I'm telling you now, it's going to be a disaster zone. Because what they don't understand with Solo was because they got boycotted. You have to break it down. You've got to break it down that the people, the 50-50 people who don't really care, because Star Wars fandom comes in like 2 groups. You have one group who are the die-hard. It's basically, you can go on YouTube. You go on YouTube and you see the videos of the people that love this Disney stuff. And you look at the video of the people that hate the Disney stuff. All you have to do is just assess the nature of their arguments and just their basic intelligence as individuals and make up your own mind. You see, what's going to happen is that there's the needy fans who will watch anything because Star Wars for them is like, basically they go to weddings, they get wed in Star Wars costumes.
You don't know, like they will buy anything. They will always be there regardless. So the key thing is that how many of those guys exist and how many of and those guys are enough for a 1 billion.
That's what I'm trying to say. Look at Galaxy's Edge. Those guys all went to Galaxy's Edge, and Galaxy's Edge has flopped. All those guys went to Solo. See, Solo, the peripheral audience who don't care about Star Wars will not go to Solo because it doesn't mean anything to them. Solo only means anything to the people that know Star Wars. People that know Star Wars, we know that all those hardcore, all those needy people not hardcore, the needy fans, we know they all went. And those guys showed us what they can do. Because remember, Solo was not a bad movie. Ron Howard, that movie was not a bad movie. So those guys would have watched it twice, maybe 3 times. But they showed us, because remember that China is out. China does not care about Star Wars. That's why they're trying to launch a manga Star Wars now. China is gone. So those guys went and they showed you what the needy fans can do. 400 mil. Now, in between that time and now, they have called the hardcore guys racist, bigots, threatened. They've insulted. They've said everything. So you've actually made your relations worse with those guys than they were at Solo. So where exactly are these tickets going to come from? Because you realize that when these things, a lot of companies buy up premier tickets so that they can have their competitions. So even before tickets have become available, a lot of big companies buy up a lot of tickets so that they can, we've got this competition that you can win opening tickets to go and see Rise. So that's already gone. Then you get the needy fans who get online and buy those tickets straight away. And have you heard any blockbuster reports since Atom Tickets in the last 3 days, 2 days?
No.
And you ain't going to be hearing any because those tickets are not getting sold. Everybody who was going to do their thing did it at midnight that night. And there's no more. And what they're going to see come December is going to be worse than what they saw with whatever you call it. And once word gets out, because the things that Ray does in this film,
I've heard of a certain scene involving Rey, Kylo, and Palpatine. No. Because obviously, that's why, I am curious. Just because I tell you, this thing is trash. I mean, we touched upon last Jedi, but I've just heard of a particular scene that occurs between Rey, Kylo, and Palpatine, and from what I've read, it reads like a Benny Hill comedy skit. And I'm just praying that it happens and it's real, because if it does happen, it sounds nasty. And I just want to hear the fallout out of it because it just sounds nasty.
Listen, what I saw from those leaks is a man who doesn't know, basically a conflicted man. You don't have the humility to backtrack from this Mary Sue goddess character you've created, obviously because of your wife. Because you know that if you do that, you're going to be accused by all these people that you've tried to please, that you've given in. But you as a man, as a filmmaker, you know that it makes no sense. So what you have is basically Ray makes some mistakes in this movie. Basically, the first mistakes that she's ever made. But the kind of mistakes she's made are the kind of mistakes that God would make. these like existential humanitarian mistakes. And when I look at the kind of thing that JJ, you realize that a lot of the guys who would give you money are about 40 years old. They're in their 30s. These guys are not stupid. Basically, the guys who rejected The Last Jedi, who have ended up realizing how bad Force Awakens was, they're not stupid. And that is why J.J. Abrams has not subjected or exposed himself to any real media scrutiny. Because he knows that, listen, J.J. Abrams has not made a movie or done anything for years. Because J.J. Abrams, as stupid as he is, he understands that he's messed up. And he understands that history is going to get him.
Wait, what? That he messed up Force Awakens, or he messed up the whole trilogy by not doing the second one?
No, look at what Bob Iger said in his book. So obviously, it was a known thing that when The Force Awakens was shown to George Lucas, he said it was bad. So we know that J.J. Abrams, a man, you grew up being a fan of a man. J.J. Abrams is now living in a world where you have betrayed George Lucas. So we know that was a fallout from Force Awakens. Then James Cameron, who we know was doing a lot of stuff with George Lucas. He did, I think it's the Hero's Journey or the others. He did some projects with George Lucas around that time. James Cameron came out and said that this movie was derivative, and he likes a lot of the people that were involved with the production, so he's not going to say any more than that. But it wasn't very creative. So obviously he's had conversations with George Lucas and agreed with, because Cameron doesn't need to kiss up to anybody. So that's what James Cameron and George Lucas have come out and said what they've said. And Spielberg, the man who was instrumental in getting JJ the job, he actually lobbied JJ to do that Force Awakens, has kept quiet, as Spielberg always does, because Spielberg knows that he's had a hand in the rubbish. With all this Scorsese, Coppola stuff, he knows he did Transformers. He's keeping very quiet. Spielberg has said nothing. JJ knows that he blew it in Force Awakens, which is why he has not been able to get past that for 4 years. The man, J.J. Abrams, is known as being the most prolific, because he's so rubbish. He does 20 projects at the same time. That's how he's known. That man has not done anything for 4 years. The trailer I saw 3 days ago is the best trailer that man has ever delivered by quite a long way. Because the fact is, let's call a spade a spade. It's a pretty good trailer. It's a pretty good, and those images are very impressive. Obviously, that's ILM, Industrial Light and Magic, that in J.J. Abrams. But in terms of production quality, that is an impressive piece of work. But he's in trouble because he's living in a, he's not going to convince ambivalent people to come and watch a part 3 of a story that they don't care about. It doesn't matter what you show them. Because Star Wars
no, but because see, my thing is this, and I think from even when you look at that trailer, that okay, for me, I didn't think the trailer was that good. I still feel the Force Awakens trailer, and most of the Force Awakens trailers were actually the best trailers that he's done. But even if he puts the best trailer whatsoever, the dude is a crap filmmaker. Like, he's never made a quality film, and this is what I've said to people. Insult Lucas all you want. See, because you've not seen THX yet, which I think you should see. But you look at A New Hope, you look at Empire. Okay, look at a New Hope. Even pictures of Return of the Jedi. These are films. J.J. Abrams has never made a film. He makes cookie cutter, B grade, B tech, Starving Man's blockbuster movies. That's what he does. So you're looking at that trailer knowing that you're not actually going to see a film version of that trailer.
But HH, remember that Force Awakens, and this is what a lot of guys say online. The Force Awakens trailers were only had any kind of, I mean, because you're saying you think they were better. I remember what the Force Awakens teaser was. I remember what happened in the Force Awakens trailer. Like, it showed Finn with his lightsaber and all that kind of stuff. It showed, Kylo Ren come out and show his cross plates. Come on, listen. I think you better go watch that Force Awakens trailer again. Force Awakens. The hype about Force Awakens was that we had not seen Han, Chewie, Leia, and Luke in 30 years. That's all that film was about, and everybody knows that now. The hype for that was all about, oh my God, we have not seen these guys in 30 years. I'm telling you that what you're going to see, when you break down the analytics of demographics, the analytics of demographics tells me that you're going to get a shock. You're going to get a big opening weekend. But let me tell you something. This opening weekend may be the smallest. It may come in at maybe 200, 220, maybe. It may not be that big. This thing is gonna rocket down.
I mean, 200 is still pretty big, though. I mean, even if for Star Wars, it's not that big, but still, 200 is still 200.
No, 200. Come on, listen. 200 is not. If you're looking at 250, 257, and you're coming at 200, and in your finale, look at the Harry Potter franchise. Look at the Lord of the Rings franchise. Everything goes up. Everything goes up. It's only this Star Wars thing. Listen, if you make a movie that makes $2 billion, everybody that watched that movie should watch the second. There's no argument. So say, oh, well, usually Star Wars movies don't. No. In the current climate of, because this ain't the 80s, this ain't the early 90s, or sorry, late 90s. In this current climate of where cinema is making more money than it has ever made, your sequels go up. Marvel, literally, within the last 3 years, about every 6 months, they have released a movie, from Spider-Man Homecoming to Black Panther, Captain Marvel, Endgame, whatever you call it, and each movie has made at least $1 billion within about 6 to 3 month intervals. But you are going to release a movie 2 years after whatever you call it, and you're making 1.3, and you're going to try to make an excuse that that is not a fail. Basically,
Oh, wait. Because I want to just because again because this is just something because I want to make sure that we actually cover this thingy. I think we have to bring him on because we've not yet mentioned him, and he's a very key player in this whole thing. I just want to just ask very very simply.
Oh God, no, football head.
Yeah. So basically, I just want to ask very simply in your view, what do you think was going through Rand Johnson's head? I know this may be hard to do, but just try your best to try and do some mental
Well,
gymnastics.
H.
Wait, no, wait. Let me just land. Let me land just quickly. Let me just land. What do you think was going through Rand Johnson's head, honestly, when he was making The Last Jedi? What do you think the points? What do you think he was trying to achieve? Because even every time I just think about it and I think of myself leaving the cinema, I'm still confused as to just what the hell that film was about and what he was trying to achieve. So what the hell was he trying to achieve with Luke? What was he trying to achieve within the story? What was he trying to achieve within a part 2?
Right. What I would say, HH, is that it's a complicated one, but seeing as this is a big, epic little chat we're having here, where there's, this is like, end game. What I would say is that you've got to look at the man. And Rand Johnson, what was Rand Johnson's response the second after the. Who responds the second after the Rise of Skywalker trailer hits? Rand Johnson does. And he types on his Twitter, "Oh man, I love Star Wars," with a heart emoticon, a heart emoji. This is a almost 40-year-old or 40-something-year-old man. He's speaking like he's a baby. Basically, he's got that kind of child psychology where you know what you've done and you think you can mask it by overcompensating in the opposite direction. He's a very immature idiot who actually has some skill as a director. And what he thought, look, I've actually kind of said this earlier on in this chat about what he was trying to be, is that like Kathleen Kennedy's aim was that I'm going to use this platform to boost myself as a social activist in the world. And then I can be, on stage with world leaders and go to get my Nobel Peace Prize. That's what she thought she could be. I mean, that she recently got like a CBE from the Queen. So
Wait, who? Why Kennedy?
For her services to film, she recently got a
Oh Lord.
CBE. That is who Kathleen Kennedy is. Now, who Rand Johnson is a little fool who thought that, listen, I could just come into this thing and make a film like everyone else is, like JJ tried to do, and it might do well. And then, but I want to be known. I want to be special. I want people to think about me. That was his motivation. And because Star Wars is so big, it should be able to withstand anything I do. So I'm going to come in and try to be the great maverick subverter. And then when I do this, people will have to ask, my God, who made this? Who had the balls to do this? Who could have done this? It was me. That was his plan. And to a certain extent, he succeeded. What he doesn't understand, see, what all these people simply do not understand is that Star Wars is blockbuster number one. Star Wars is the blockbuster franchise that created blockbuster franchises.
But it's not. It is not like your. Basically, it's not like the blockbuster that you see in modern day.
But you haven't let me finish. That's the juice. Like everything that is an original in the world, they are not like their spin-offs. A Michael Jackson is not like a Usher or Cisco or whatever you call it. What's that? Justin Timberlake. What you're going to find in Timberlake or Cisco or Genuine or Usher or all these guys are going to be very synthetic elements of Michael Jackson. But by the time you actually look at Michael Jackson, you're not going to be able to kind of understand what the hell he is, because he is the actual source. Star Wars is the source of Transformers, Jaws, Jurassic Park, T2, Harry Potter. Star Wars is the source. So you have to ask yourself, what is the nature of that fountain? What brings forth all of this? Now, the truth is, Kathy doesn't understand that. JJ doesn't get it. None of these guys get it. It is the nature of that fountain, which is why they are going to die with this Star Wars, because they cannot replicate it. And that is what is going to punish them. If you go and do a Marvel thing, it's easy because these things have formulas. Star Wars doesn't have a formula, because Star Wars was the first thing that taught people that they could actually be motivated by something on this scale. When something does that, there is no formula for it, because it's an original, which is why it's a dangerous thing to tackle, because you have no idea how to replicate it. So the thing I keep saying is that George Lucas was like Sauron. When Sauron took the rings to the men and the elves and the different people, and they all thought they were getting something that would bring them wealth and power, but he kept one ring
to rule them all. One of the greatest moves of all time, Sauron, man.
In his great swindle, that no matter what they did, they are bound to him, but they have all bought into him based on their greed.
Yeah.
But Lucas knew, because let me just land, because that's why when Lucas said this how many years ago, we all laughed at him when he goes, well, they're still gonna kind of need me, to tell them about the Force and all this stuff. We all laughed at him. The truth is, what he's telling us then was that he is the fountain. He is the one ring to bind them all. You have to buy George Lucas, which you can't. Without him, you will fail. It's that simple. One ring, and in the darkness will be bound. And that is going to happen in December.
All right, so basically, I want to actually, because again, there are many things that I want to cover here, and I want to make sure that we cover all the bases. I want to cover this dude here, Finn, and specifically John Boyega. Now, I need to tell this story. It's a good thing that I actually don't have it here, because I threw it away. So in my excitement of wanting to, of the Force Awakens, and I think my podcast buddy Daniel Tilloch actually mentioned it. That's why he actually reminded me, because Daniel Tilloch in the live chat, he said that they should have made the black guy the protagonist. The white guy, the white girl ain't it. That's not my words. That's Daniel Tilloch's words. So if you think he's racist, go towards him. So, and it just reminded me that I bought the toy for Finn because I was excited. Oh my gosh, we're gonna have a black protagonist. He has his own lightsaber, blah blah blah. This is gonna be so cool. I would have thought, because what I was thinking was like, my gosh, this guy, he's a stormtrooper, and he's a stormtrooper turned into a Jedi. My gosh, we've never had a stormtrooper who realizes that he's force sensitive and then it becomes a Jedi. So I thought that was what it was going to be. So, but I thought, okay, worst case scenario, what we're going to get is a stormtrooper as a character. So we're going to have a soldier, like with regards to the, so we have like the Jedi, we have the pilot, and we have the soldier. And I thought, man, that's a crazy idea. We've never seen a stormtrooper go from an antagonist to a protagonist. Instead, what we got was one of the most despicable, useless pieces of garbage crap, utterly useless, filthy, stingy, disgusting characters I've ever seen in my life. I despise Finn. I hate Finn. Finn makes me sick. Finn is disgusting. And I think, see, my hate for this new trilogy and why I feel so much about this new trilogy begins with Finn. Because of the way that, and that's why, let me even bring up this loser's image, man. This is why I hate Abrams. Because you tricked me. And I really hate being tricked. I really hate being taken for a ride. And because this is what I said, and I'll reiterate what I said in my last video.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
I was told that this white English girl is going to be the Jedi and the hero, cool. Different strokes for different folks. If I was told that, cool, fine. I'm not going to waste my time to watch it because that's just not me. If that's cool for other people, that's cool for other people. That's just not me. But I was given mixed signals that maybe. So when I went in there, and this guy, not only was he not a Jedi, he he was comedy relief. But last I checked, when we saw the original trio, everyone had a role. Han had a role. A very good pilot. Leia had a role. She was pretty much the person who was like the leader of the crew, who really knew how to lead and really get them through tough bits. And she was also force sensitive as well. And of course had Luke and R2D2, one of the most underrated characters in all of Star Wars, and who was grossly disrespected by the losers in the thing. So, but the thing I don't get is, this is what I'll give it back to Phantom of Hope is this is just blatant. I don't know whether you want to call it racism, rudeness. How do you create a character who is black, who is useless and complete and utter crap and garbage? How?
Because this is a great, video, and I'm so happy and thank you again for having me on your excellent show. I'm I'm going to just answer this honestly, but it's going to be a bit of a lengthy answer. I'll try to be as zippy as possible. You see, the answer, Finn, because I've told you this many times, in private chat, so I'll just make it this as this is an official documented medium. You've got to go back to the source. You see, to call Finn a gollywog, chalk heist, bounty, coconut coon is too simple. You have to go back to the source. Are you there? Hello.
Yeah. Here. No,
It's like,
remember, I'm always here
you
because I
see,
always have to mute because of the
yeah,
echo. But here,
yeah. The first character, my main man Lando, was never meant to be in Star Wars. He was only introduced because there was
wait. Sorry. Guys, let me just say this. We are really going there. So Daniel, if you said Daniel to look, trust me, we are going there. So it is what it is because I know where he's going. We're going right there. So boom, we're in. Let's go. Let's roll.
Lando was never meant to be in Star Wars. I mean, this is George Lucas, who his wife is black, by the way, and talks about white slavers only after he married a black woman. In a time where Gene Roddenberry was breaking boundaries, Star Trek brought out after Star Trek was in the 60s. This guy brought out something in the 70s, late 70s.
Wait. Can you just slightly start with the Star Trek talk because I think we just lost you for a few
All right.
seconds. Start with the Star Trek talk
Okay,
again.
Star Trek. You know what Gene Roddenberry had done with the crew of the Enterprise, with Sulu, with Yelchov, Chekhov, with Uhura. His thing was about being, his thing was that surely in the future we would have gotten over racism, you know. But then you have a man who's making something who is you can see Star Trek is tied to Earth, the Federation, Enterprise. That's tied to Earth. There is less reason for there to be any cultural diversity in Star Trek than in something based on in Tatooine with Tauntauns and the Ewoks. But somehow this man brought out a movie, in New Hope, with no minorities, no blacks. You base it on samurais and Japan. There are no Asians, there are no blacks in what you've made. Fine. Then there was outcry, and you created Lando. But in creating Lando, and here's where things get funny or exciting, you bring in your good friend from Raiders of the Lost Ark, our lovely friend Lawrence Kasdan, the daddy of Johnny Kasdan, who makes Lando pansexual, by the way. But we'll get to Johnny later. So you bring in You bring in Larry, and Larry creates this first black character in your empire. And we don't want to be so obvious, but come on. The first black guy you have in Star Wars happens to betray arguably the most popular character in Star Wars. That's not a very good start, is it? Now, now, before we even get to know him, here's what Lawrence, Johnny's daddy, does to set him up. He lets us know that, oh, this man who we are now going to meet owns this facility, Bespin, over Bespin, Cloud City. But this place that he owns, this Cloud City that he's an administrator of, Kasdan needs to let us know that Lando won it at a game. So he can't have any ownership. He's not allowed to have any ownership, autonomy, autocracy. He won it at a game. So we'll keep that. This is a card game of Sabak. So we'll remember that. And then, of course, we go there and he betrays Han. Then let's now go to Solo, a Star Wars story, where Lawrence Kasdan now writes about this black character with his son, Johnny Kasdan. About this card game Lando is meant to have won Bespin, because we found out that he won Bespin in a card game, and we then find out that he also won the Millennium Falcon playing cards. That's what this guy does. So then we think, oh my God, Lando. So you can't own anything. You just win it by playing games. Fine. Well, at least you're a good card player, right? But you see, Lawrence and John have different plans for us because we can't even give him that. So we watch Solo and discover that Lando cheats at Sabak. He cheats. That's how he wins his games. So this guy cheated to get Cloud City, and he cheated to get the Millennium Falcon. Cool. Okay. But at least we can say, let's say that he's got nice clothes. So, and this is 30 years prior to A New Hope, whatever. So we know that the Millennium Falcon is known for being broken down and a bit shoddy. So, but it can't be shoddy 30 years before. It's got to be new. But if it's new 30 years before, but it's shoddy when Han has it, are you trying to tell me that Han cannot maintain a ship as well as...
So basically, it makes Han look really bad, which they can't really allow.
Which we can't have that. So Lawrence and his son are going to have to find a way to make sure that, if anything, Han actually improved the Millennium Falcon. So he cooks up this story where, when we see the Millennium Falcon, it looks great. It's new, as we would expect it to be. And Lando has got great clothes, lovely, nice-looking attire, and it looks good because Lando dresses nicely. But then when we go in there, we make sure that Han has sex in Lando's private quarters and, disarrays and, disorganizes his cloaks. We just need to show that level of disrespect to Lando. And then they have the Kessel Run. And by the time they get out of the Kessel Run, the ship is in worse condition than it is in A New Hope. So we know now that Lando, that whatever you call it, Han actually improved it. And then what do we now do at the end of Solo? Han has to win the Millennium Falcon, obviously. So what happens? He sabotages the little thing that Lando has up his sleeve, because they play this legendary game of Sabak. so that when Lando tries to cheat Han, there's no card in his sleeve or something like that. And Han, being the angelic god that he is, goes, Lando, is there a problem there? And Lando goes, oh, looking a bit hot under the collar. Oh, no, everything's just fine. And then now that Han has the ability, because I think he's got the device with him, that he could cheat, Han doesn't cheat. And he plays the game fairly. And he wins the Millennium Falcon fairly. Because Han is a better human than Lando. And that's how Han won the Millennium Falcon. And in case we need to just know a bit more about Lando, Johnny let us know that he's pansexual. He'd screw anything. And in case you think they're just going overboard, we then watch the movie, and the way he interacts with the robot when the robot dies, you start thinking, Jesus Christ, maybe that's what they do. So that is how Lawrence Kasdan comes back to revisit a character he screwed 30 years ago, to double down, to make sure we know that there is nothing redeemable about Lando. And then we come to Finn.
Yeah.
And who is the writer that is writing Finn? It's
Lawrence Kasdan.
He's back. And now he's gonna give you something better than he ever gave you. He's gonna give you his pièce de la his creme de la creme creation. Finn. Now, I could spend all day going about how Finn was drinking from a dirty pool of water from a camel that kicked him the first time you saw him, and how Rey shouted at him and made him into a buffoon and said, "Don't hold my hand," and put him on his butt the first time she met him, and put him in the friend zone and friend zoned him. And all he does is scream and shout for Rey, even though he's never met her before. And he's still, as of the Rise of Skywalker, he's still shouting Rey. But just in case you didn't realize, he's still shouting Rey in Rise of Skywalker, a person who has friend zoned you. Fine. But let's go into ownership. He has no name. Who gives Finn his name? Poe. Like a runaway slave, he's just given a name by some pilot. We're going to call you Finn. He has no weapon. Sorry, he has no clothes. Who gives him his coat? Finn. When he wants to give the coat back to Finn, Finn goes, no, keep it. It looks good on you. He has no weaponry. And escaped a stormtrooper, by the way, has no weaponry. Hana gives him his gun. Finn uses the gun for a bit. He wants to give the gun back. He goes, nah, it looks good on you. No, it looks good with you. Keep it. He gets armed. He gets clothed. He gets named. Is he even any good as you're meant to be a stormtrooper? At least own your own profession. Nah. Lawrence can't have that. So in his unique case, do you know how strapped for personnel an army needs to be to start putting cooks and janitors in the field of battle? Somehow, this first
That's
order.
ridiculous. I mean, it's ridiculous.
No,
A cook.
Somehow, this first order, who look better equipped than the Empire ever was, need to find a way to put a janitor on the field of battle. So somehow, Finn is not even allowed to be a good soldier. So you now have a character who he has no story arc. He's not allowed to have a past. He's not allowed to be a good soldier. He's
no love interest as well. Zero love interest.
Have a love interest. So basically, you just have a person who he's just walking around being Finn's friend. You see, with Paul Dameron, they can't make him anything. They need to emasculate him. They need to make Admiral Holdo talk down to him. They let Leia slap this man. Imagine if a guy slapped a woman in any Star Wars. Leia slaps Poe. The most official man in this trilogy, who's actually good at something, who's actually has autonomy, he gets slapped. I mean, it's extraordinary. So, but coming back to Finn, it's like Finn is a character who is completely emasculated and completely stripped of any respectability whatsoever. And the thing is that J.J. Abrams knows this, which is why I guarantee you're going to see a marked improvement in Finn's character in this movie. Because everything you're going to see in the Rise of Skywalker is going to be a retcon. A retcon.
Which
These
which is
guys,
what's going to make it
yeah,
completely confusing. It's going to be
Mercy,
confusing.
these guys who claim they are pro equality, pro diversity, pro women, you have created the most racist character I have seen in my lifetime. And also, let's talk about women. Let's talk about women. Just leaving Finn for a bit. Talk about Leia. You claim you're pro women. Leia is Luke's twin sister, and I've said this about in the Force Awakens talk we had years ago. Leia is Luke's twin sister. You're gonna tell me that Leia finds out that she is Luke's twin sister, that Vader is her father, and she sees what Luke has used the Force to do to liberate the world at the end of The Last Jedi, and she decided that she's not going to become a Jedi, a Force healer, a Force priestess, an overseer, a protector, a spiritual. She is just going to completely shut herself off from the Force and just go and become some general in a bunker. Is that what you're going to tell me, Jay? Is that what you're going to? Because that's what she did, and they know it makes no sense. The truth is that you don't give a damn about Leia because she's not a hot little girl like Daisy Ridley, because you are actually sexist. But what's going to happen now? I'll tell you what's going to happen now. In The Rise of Skywalker, they're going to now try to feed you some rubbish story as to why Leia never became a powerful entity in the Force.
Too late. Too late. I mean, no, no,
But
no.
it's
How they treated Leia,
it's going
embarrassing.
to
I mean,
work.
basically, it's ridiculous because it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Like this is. She was supposed to be the not only the general and the leader. First of all, the whole thing of like how it's so. This is 30 years after Return of the Jedi, but they're now back as rebellions and about. They're now back as rebels, and she's the rebel leader again. But she's a leader. She isn't even a flipping general because they should actually be the guys who are the leaders when you have a
HH.
first order. And also, she has the Force, which was never used, only used once in Last Jedi, and that was it.
And you basically, the story does basically just like Palpatine, is he dead or alive? It doesn't work either way, whether he's dead or alive. With Leia, it doesn't work because are you going to tell me that she sees, same as Lando, he sees all this discord going on in the galaxy and he stays in hiding? Or you're going to say Leia sees all this discord in the galaxy, but she hides her Force abilities? And but she will now reveal them in and or you're going to say some rubbish that she decided to take maternity leave because she's having a baby, and then after the baby was born and became evil, she kept her maternity leave and never went back to the Force. JJ, it doesn't work. You did not take Leia seriously and are now going to try to retrospectively make a cockamamie story fit because you're in trouble. That's what you're going to try to do. When we're going to see Rey train, you're going to see Leia standing far away. She was never there. So it's not even going to be organic. It's not. And then I've read something that it's going to say, oh, well, she now wants to go and she doesn't want to do all the mind stuff. She wants to go and do physical stuff. So that's going to explain why when Rey is flipping training herself, for God's sake. These guys are sick in the head.
Oh no, no. I mean, no, no. I mean, if it is true that Ray is trading herself, I think that's when you know what you're just taking the piss. You know what? Like it would be better if she just beats the crap out of Kylo, Palpatine, and God without training, rather than just actually just try and piss in our face and basically insults the intelligence of cinema goers. Forget Star Wars fans, insults the intelligence of human beings and the human brain by making her train herself to go and fight. That's just being stupid. That's just being
HH.
stupid.
But HH, you made an important point that there are rules. There are rules here. And we know that even without knowing any spoilers or anything, Rey cannot possibly lose to Kylo Ren in part 3. That makes no sense. So we know for a fact that Kylo Ren is going to have to lose to Rey in part 3. Has J.J. Abrams, Kathy, and Ryan ever stopped to think that When you now watch these three movies from part 7 to 9, and you watch the story of Ben Solo, Kylo Ren, this is going to play worse than Jon Snow. This man is going to have to be the most
I mean, Jon Snow
effective.
was pretty bad. I mean, okay, John, see, that is maybe a discussion for on another day. But
No,
what they did to Jon Snow was
I sent you the
catastrophic.
script. Yes, it was bad, but I sent you the script. Kylo Ren is a villain who started his trilogy by being beaten, scarred, and Rey spares his life because she doesn't want to to fall over the edge into the dark side. She spares his life. Kylo Ren is walking around for a whole trilogy with a scar across his face that was given to him by a little girl in part one who had never picked up a saber before and thought the Force and Luke and everything was a myth. Jon Snow, nobody can compete with that. And then when you now go to part two, she helps him out in the throne room. She saves him. This man cannot tell whether Luke is a hologram or not. Luke fools him. We got to part. Basically, this man is he's just going worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And as you said in part three, the man has to fail. So why has he brought Palpatine back? And what I do like about Abrams is that in the trailer, he actually shows. Basically, he doesn't bother trying to sell Rey v Kylo 2 as any kind of Luke v Vader 2 in Jedi or Obi-Wan v Anakin in Revenge of the Sith. He doesn't even bother. He knows that nobody can see Kylo Ren as a credible threat to Rey. So he actually shows Kylo Ren putting his saber away. Say, no, but I do. He knows. Hello? Oh,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
are?
yeah, yeah. No, no, yeah, yeah. No, no. No. I'm just thinking. I'm just thinking.
There's not a lot to be thought about because what we've got here is basically the reason. I think what JJ knows is that, like with all these things, the dust will always settle. When the dust settles on what has happened, it's going to be very ugly for JJ Abrams because he has done things that cannot. See, I keep going back to this whole Kylo Ren beaten, scarred, and spared his life. That is a statistic that no way you curve it, you twist it, you
You can't
spin it.
rewrite it like you can't. You can't correct that. You can't course correct that. Like that is such. No, because you see, my thing about it is that how stupid can you be?
It's not
Like
about
how stupid can you be
you
to
see,
allow that to happen for your main villain to get dismembered and destroyed in the very first. It basically. I just want to sit Abrams down and just say, what was so? Let's say Abrams, you were going to do part two, and you were going to do part three. So specifically in your part two, what was your plan then? So Rey destroys Kylo in that first film. In that second film, what is the story? What is the intrigue? What is the suspense? Because we surely can't have any suspense of Rey because you've not already shown us, you've already blown your load in the first film by saying, okay, she's bloody amazing. So just on basic storytelling tips, unless you're a flipping moron, what is the thing that is actually going to make us interested in the protagonist in the second film after you've already shown them to be overpowered in the first film? And what are we supposed to think about the villain? It makes no sense.
I mean, I think if you ask JJ that question, JJ doesn't have an answer for you. I think what happened in that movie was that you saw JJ just, in a sense, I think in a sense, he's giving into very deep, weird fantasies of his. And I think it all goes back to that wife he's got. Because no human being can logically explain why a grown man would want to see a man treated like that on screen. It doesn't make any sense unless you're a very weird kind of man. And when I look at J.J. Abrams, he looks like a very weird.
Extremely weird. Extremely
Like
weird.
he looks like an extremely strange guy. And this is obviously a man with zero personality, zero character, zero backbone. And the truth is that when you see his art, it makes sense because the man is so derivative. This guy just copies people. And when I see the spoilers for this movie, that's what, like, I was shocked when I saw that trailer. I was shocked. I was like, okay, HH, let me ask you a question here. If
Sure.
if you have Zori Bliss and you have the Knights of Ren, why would you not show them doing something in the trailer? Because we saw that this guy, you created Phasma, a character that looks cool, and this person did nothing. You made Knights of Ren, and they didn't even exist. Because you so have no ability to actually do anything. You just chuck stuff. Maybe you saw something cool somewhere, you're just going to put it in there. Okay, just going to put it in there. You have no idea what you're actually doing with anything. It's like, are you telling me that, or is it the case that you're so scared that you have nothing that you want I mean, basically, it makes no sense. Wouldn't you tease people with your new characters? Why would the Knights of Ren or Zori Bliss not be in the trailer? I don't understand it.
I I mean, but again, this isn't. But that's why you have to realize that it's a mixture of there are people who are weird and are just not very talented. No matter how much media tells us they're talented or not, they're just people who just are not very talented. So my thing about it is, I think for Abrams, I look at him getting the people from the raid. So you got the people from the raid who are pretty much well, not reinvented, but are pretty much like the most in vogue modern action stars. Like Iko Uwais and those guys from the raid are like, okay, these are the guys. Like the raid was like, no, this is now the modern post millennium action movie now.
Yeah.
So you get them. Think about this is 1 + 1 = 2. So these guys are obviously going to be are most likely going to be Sith or going to be villains or antagonists in some kind of interesting way. But you put them in what was the worst scene in your film with a weird CG monster. So you say, wait, what? So you teased the whole thing with the Knights of Ren, and there was a whole build up on that, and you saw them in a flashback. So it's like, what? So even if you throw the
yes. No, you sorry to interrupt, but you hit something very important about Knights of Ren, about with Jedi and everything. It's like, if you tell a story, see, this is why I asked that question about why would he not? Because there are things that J.J. Abrams does that I'm almost scared, because I'm thinking that, are you like thick? Like, are you like actually like mentally? Is there something wrong with him? Because like you tell a story that Kylo Ren raised Luke's Jedi temple to the ground and left with a bunch of students. The natural inference is that the bunch of students are the Knights of Ren, Jedi Knights, the Jedi Knights of Ren. Would they not be Sith with sabers? Why have you got them in muddy, crappy clothes with big, massive axes and strange guns? And what does that mean?
that's him trying to be creative.
Maybe. I mean, maybe it's just that maybe like he just thinks, oh, that's so obvious. So I see, everybody is trying to be so clever. Everybody is trying to be so clever. Like, we watched in the movie that's called The Last Jedi, had no lightsaber fighting in it. It had no lightsaber fighting in it.
In so Luke Skywalker, who was the last Jedi in a whole film, not once did he have a fight with his lightsaber. And so basically, so this is when I just think that people are just sick. They are sick in the head. Insult Lucas all you want. Insult the prequels all you want. My God, they fought. They
But
fought.
HH, Luke, you have to remember that. You see, with everybody trying to be so clever, they've forgotten that you realize that Luke Skywalker never left that island. In 3 movies, you wait 30 years and you see a hobbit who just sits on an island and is grumpy, and eventually he makes himself a hologram, then dies. I mean,
Pathetic.
it's incredible. I know there are some people that I've argued with this online, and I've argued them to such a standstill on this point that they just go, well, to be honest, Luke, who really cares? It's sort of, I'm done with the Skywalker saga. I'm telling you, those are the people that gave Solo 400. They cannot save Rise of Skywalker. They cannot. And if the vibe, listen, combined on the vibe I'm getting online, and combined with the spoilers I have read, this is going to be very ugly.
So okay. So your belief is that this thing comes under 1 billion
Yes,
worldwide in its
yeah,
entire run.
yeah. It's going to become a thing. The movie is going to come out. People are going to be disgusted, and it's going to become a thing.
I mean, no. I mean, no. For me, because for me, let's see. I hope so because I think that the best thing that can happen for Star Wars is if this fails to make 1 billion, and this is pretty much a tepid film that's like at best has mixed reviews. Because if that happens, then I think Bob Iger and Co will be like, okay, let's focus on the Disney Plus stuff. But with regards to these films, you know what? Let's just chill.
Look, something scary that I read, because you know that there have been 2 leaked images. 2 leaked images. HH. One of the leaked images is you've got both of them holding Luke's saber and Leia's saber. Apparently, Leia now has oh my God, listen. Leia now has a saber that apparently she's been hiding for the last 2 films. Okay. And the other image is of Palpatine doing something with some electricity. And I'm telling you, it looks like something out of Golden Axe on the Mega Drive. Now, here's the thing. The thing is that as long as the spoilers say that Palpatine is really bad, and Palpatine actually says something like, well, you can't, hard to believe, but here I am. Or
Oh no! Come on, that's a lie,
no,
man. Nah,
no,
nah.
no,
You
no,
see,
no, no.
you see, if he says that, then like then the film is a 10. Like let's see, if he cracks like a joke. No, so maybe see, wait, if he's like witty, no, look, see, if he's witty, and he cracks a joke as to like, wait a minute, you just got thrown down a flipping pit and now you're alive, and he actually says, yeah, that's actually pretty funny. Yeah, here I am. Then this film is a 10.
No, yeah, well, look, it very well could be. But he says something to that effect, where I think Kylo goes, "But you should be dead." And he goes, "Well, as that is true. In effect, I was killed, but at the end of the day, this is the way things." Something like that. And my thing is that from the second that this guy decided to involve Palpatine in any way, he's finished. He's finished. It is finished.
Wait. But just very quickly, but there is actually because I saw like obviously in the trailer, there's a thing of Rey facing up to Palpatine. So my thing is, see, this is the stupidity, because this is what I think happens, and this may be based on a few leaks and everything. So tell me how much this is true or not. This is just based on what I've read and just going through. So Rey and Kylo are gonna fight again. Rey may probably almost beats Kylo. Then they sort of like, so Rey sort of tries to basically gets Kylo onto the good side. And then Rey and Kylo sort of like start to walk together and actually and they try to work together trying to take down Palpatine. And I think the ultimate fight, I believe, is going to be between Rey and Palpatine. And then it's like, how, why, what? Because my fear is these guys are really going to say,
It gets worse. The kind of things that what I read is extraordinary. As I said, if what I read, if this stuff happens, this will be the most incredible film I've ever seen. It's as simple as that.
wait, go back again. Okay, go and speak after you said the most incredible film you'll ever see.
Oh, but no, that was that. So basically, if what I've read is true, that finale with Kylo Ren, basically, what happens to Kylo Ren is incredible. His story arc in this thing is incredible. Now that's fight that finale between the three of them and the two of them and Palpatine. If everything that they say happens, HH, it will be the most incredible movie I've ever seen. Absolutely. I mean, you're essentially looking at a man, JJ Abrams. Literally, this guy is at his wits' end. He's just chucking stuff out there. That's what he's doing. I know that.
Basically, there's a scene with them because I missed them. They're like horse riding on a Death Star, apparently.
Oh yeah. All of them. They got horses on there. So actually, this is what JJ doesn't get. I know that he's trying to be creative and interesting, but like JJ, they're horses. They're horses, man. They're horses. Like that's just like that's what you can when a guy he's just trying to go mad. JJ, they're horses. That's not creative. It's stupid. It's like getting a gorilla or somebody's pet dog and putting like a mask on it. It doesn't basically. I see. This is the thing about J.J. Abrams. Is like, ugh, look, you know what? I'm never. The levels I can go with is that there's just no point.
I mean, that's what I think. I just want to just sort of just round it off, sort of
Yeah,
now, man.
yeah.
So with regards to let's even really go back to the source himself. So again, we don't know what's going to happen. You say that it's going to get under a bill. I
Yeah.
feel that it's going to make 1.3. But even going even be
1 point. Basically, look. Do you think it's going to beat the Last Jedi or not? That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm asking you.
yes, just only just it will only just be the last Jedi.
Okay. That movie ain't beating the Last Jedi. All right.
So basically, so my thing is this, even be honest. What future, if any, do you see of Star Wars? And do you feel that there is a future? If not, do you feel similar to me that it was only ever? Actually, no. Let's even go even deeper. First of all, do you see if there's a future for Star Wars? If not, do you then view that it was only ever 3 films? Or do you believe that there was a way to take Star Wars onto the next level? And if there was a way, what was that way and how could it have been done?
There is a future for Star Wars, as in there's a future for everything. The future for Star Wars is going to be that it's going to be relegated to like just a thing that has its fans, like Transformers or whatever. It's going to be like, yeah, whatever. And basically, look at the set of Star Trek, where J.J. Abrams essentially has killed Star Trek. Like it's still a
This
good.
no, just tiny rant, tiny itty weeny rant. Because I'm currently watching Star Trek: The Next Generation from the beginning on Netflix, and I'm like, wow, man, I'm just really going back into like, I was like, man, this is bloody amazing, this is incredible. And just as I'm watching it, I just think again about that stinking moron who made those useless Star Trek films in the most arrogant way possible and completely and totally crapped on what made Star Trek so good. So yeah, I just want to just
Okay,
put it.
no. He goes into a franchise, leeches off the original characters, disrespects them, uses them as a prop for his rubbish characters, runs away. His rubbish characters cannot withstand scrutiny, and everything dies. Did it with Star Trek, doing it with whatever you call it. Done it with with Star Wars. That's just what the guy does. The guy's rubbish, and he's got a whole crew. Roberto Orci, Kurtzman, Damon Lindelof, all this bunch of guys. That's what they do. They go around, skim off something, rip it up. You're going to see that Picard thing by Kurtzman or whatever you call it. It's going to be rubbish. That's what these people do. You're going to see Watchmen. Watchmen is going to be rubbish. That same guy that did what he did with Prometheus, it's going to be rubbish. Coming back to whatever you call it, Star Wars. Star Wars is going to be, that's what the future is going to be. In terms of is Star Wars dead? Star Wars is dead. In terms of was Star Wars only ever about the first three movies? No. I think Star Wars was only ever about the first two. Like the first two movies. And then at the end of Empire Strikes Back, the devil came to play, which is George Lucas's ego. Basically, the same thing that happened with the Crystal Skull, where what you saw with the Crystal Skull was what happened with Return of the Jedi, where he felt that, oh my God, this Empire Strikes Back is a really solid thing. And he's thinking that, you say, I mean, I'm sure I could do that. Then he comes in, as is it Richard Marquand or something? He said that the director of Jedi was like, this wasn't my film. Lucas was all over me. The same thing that Spielberg said with Crystal Skull. So you're dealing with a guy's ego, and he can't reconcile his ego with quality and the right thing to do. And that's why you got Return of the Jedi, which Return of the Jedi had a lot of great things and showed Lucas's, basically, Return of the Jedi just shows what Lucas is. Very creative, great ideas, chronically bad execution, and a lot of wasted opportunities. That's what Return of the Jedi was. And then the guy doubled down when it came to so the actual prequels, were just more of the when he basically like Dark Knight Rises, where he literally descended into himself. And when he descended into himself, you still got great moments. There's some things in the prequels that are some of my favorite things in Star Wars. But that's just the way it goes. But as far as those movies were concerned, they should never have been made, because he made Vader worse. You've come in and you've made Darth Vader worse. But you being George Lucas, you've actually made some other characters better. Like Palpatine became better. Obi-Wan became better. So that's why George Lucas is a very confusing man, because as he's delivering rubbish, he delivers some diamonds as well. So it is best that he just doesn't do anything. He should have just never done it and stopped. Then again, it's like, had Spielberg done a Star Wars thing, what you would have had is you would have had three $2.5 billion movies. And then Star Wars would be dead. Because Star Wars always has an exponential decline the second George Lucas leaves it. So if Spielberg came out and did 7, 8, and 9, you'd get by now we'd be waiting for a $3 billion film. Categorically. There's no debate, nothing. This movie is coming in at 3 billion. But it would still die, because it will always die with the one ring in the darkness behind them.
So actually, so look, so just as we, because basically, actually, just before we sort of take questions, like, so basically, guys, last few minutes, send in your questions, and I'll be looking into the live chat. Any questions you want us to ask, either on this topic or any movie topic, send in your questions now. Send in your questions now. So as people are hopefully sending questions in, I see, my thing about Star Wars is that it goes back to the whole Japanese thing and the samurai thing, because I've always said, what is it about Star Wars that I've never really been a full-on fan of? Like, I've always been like, I've appreciated them as excellent films, like really good films. For me, I still like Return of the Jedi. It's nowhere near as good as the other films, but I still like the film. Hence why I still think overall it's the best trilogy of films. But my thing about this is that I just felt that you're using Kurosawa, you're using samurai films and all these kinds of things, And in all these films you've made, there's not a single Asian Sith, not a single Asian Jedi. And I think that you've not really taken things to the next level with regards to what you can do with it, the concept of Jedi, Sith, the Force, good and evil. It was, I think, Empire Strikes Back was just hinting at something. I think Empire Strikes Back was like the beginning of like, oh my gosh, this could really go somewhere. And Return of the Jedi was just like an ending, but it never really exponentially grew that idea and that concept of, wow, let's really get deep into the whole Jedi and Sith concept. And then you see these trash sequels, which are pretty much just retreading what these guys have already done. So um, that's just my thing of like, if why didn't why I mean, do you think so? So what do you think Star Wars needed to do after Empire? Where do you think it should have gone after Empire Strikes Back?
See the problem with that. See the problem with Empire Strikes Back. See this is with George Lucas. He's one of the best storytellers, if not the best storytellers that's ever been around. And the truth that the problem with the Last Jedi is that the story is amazing. It's one of the it's one of the greatest, if not one of the greatest endings I've ever seen. The story is amazing. The problem with and the story for the prequels is also amazing. The stories for the prequels is bloody good. When you actually stop and think about how he's interplaying politics and society and greed and the dark forces that are working behind, the story is amazing as always. The issue, which is why Indiana Jones was always so good, he does the story, he does the ideas, and Spielberg executes. The issue with Jedi is the execution. That was the problem. If that guy had gotten David Lynch, his first choice, or Spielberg to come in, execute Return of the Jedi, that movie would have probably been the best. That movie would have probably been the best. So that's it, in my opinion.
Okay. So let's just take in some questions now. I think we have sort of one question that has come in here. So this question is, let me just put myself on screen. So this question is from Ricky Spanish, and I think it's an interesting one. So Ricky Spanish says, the states of the MCU after Endgame. The states of the MCU after Endgame. I mean, let me just sort of kick it off, and I think then Francis hope we can give it. Um, I feel that that is why it's called Endgame. It's finished. It's done because for me, the key thing is okay. Spider Man. They now say he's going to be back. He's going to be in. Even if they have Spider Man, I think the very fact that they lost the two things that were holding it together is basically oh, there's so many things. Iron Man being gone, Captain America being gone. Those are the two guys that held you together, and those were the things that really made Endgame such a success. Were those two dudes, um, and Joker. If Joker gets to a billion, it's already going to change things. But if Joker gets to a billion, the way people now view comic book characters is going to drastically change. I think audiences will now say, you know what? Um, Maybe because there has never been a quote unquote comic book movie like a Joker before. Audiences, as in the regular person, has just accepted that hey, it's MCU, Marvel. But now that you can now get something that deeply affects you emotionally, that's on a filmmaking level of a Joker, people will be like, wait a minute, maybe because trust me, once people get bored of something and they find something new, just like the new iPhone or a new Android, they will flip you quick. So I just do not know how where Marvel goes from here. And you disrespected Black Panther, the film that made you the most money for a singular comic book hero and your best film, not that trash Infinity War. Black Panther was your best film. So you've disrespected that. So for me, I'm like, I don't know what you can do to stay relevant. Phantom of Hope, your thoughts on that?
Well, it's interesting that you said that they disrespected the best movie they had. Bob Iger knows it's the best movie they had, which is why Bob Iger used it to defend himself against Martin Scorsese and Francis Ford Coppola. You see, that is the problem, is that at the end of the day, MCU states after Endgame is Endgame. They're done. Between Joker and between Scorsese and between Coppola, they're done. That's it. Downey Jr., you're looking at a franchise that has gone through Avengers 1, Ultron, Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame. The only people that have died is Quicksilver, who they introduced in that movie to kill him, Black Widow, who everybody knows is the trashiest character in it, and you've got the Vision, who they killed him so badly they killed him twice in Infinity War because they don't know what to do with him because he's actually so powerful. A guy who was so powerful that came into Ultron as almost like a godlike figure became just a fighter. In an, they don't know what to do with the guy. They just killed him because it's easier. A guy that has an Infinity Stone in his head. Anyway, so and then the only guys who have now left, Downey Jr. has been quoted that he decided to leave because he thinks it's done. Because Downey Jr. is from the old school and he can see the writing on the wall.
Yep,
And
yep, yep.
and that is why he responded the way he responded when Coppola said when Scorsese on Howard Stern.
He knows exactly where
He
Scorsese is
knows
coming from because he's
how
from that
Scorsese,
world.
exactly. The guy's old school. He knows the deal. He knows that, and he's coming. And to his credit, he's shown it respect. He hasn't talked down to it. He's just done like, hey, here's where I find myself. I'm making money. Why not? He's made the money. Time to go. And he's conducted himself with integrity. He's done decent work. Fine. What are you going to say? And he's off. But he knows, and that's why he decided. So a franchise that's if it was down to them, Tony Stark would still be alive. That is why they've still got him doing like voiceovers. Oh, his AI is still left in some computer in some stupid Disney Plus series. Or they see a hologram of him in some other silly Disney Plus series. They're so idiotic they can't even let him die properly because that's how desperate they are. When you have the godfathers of modern cinema come out and call it despicable, as I said, it's like Michael Jackson calling anybody rubbish. That stuff sticks. And it doesn't just stick, it buries you. And now the narrative has started. It's like once that little nugget of truth just gets released, it becomes like a virus or like some kind of like Chinese whispers
Oh,
or
no,
some
no, no.
shit.
But the funny thing though is that I don't know how many of the responses that you've been seeing online. A lot of people, and this is why it is so funny and so intense. Why I wanted to get my response out there. Pretty much all the responses that I've seen have said Coppola is old. They're just whinging.
They
They're
all
just
said
doing all the
about
kind of
Frank
stuff.
Miller. They said about Frank Miller as well that he's you made the spirit. You said Dark Knight was not Batman wasn't in. When Matt Reeves' movie comes out and they now actually see a Batman in a film, wait and see what they start saying about Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises. When they actually now see a movie where Batman is in it and it's dark, wait and see what they say. All these idiots. See, there's something called the bottom line. We live in a world full of clowns who just they want to believe that they know things and they can assess things and they have opinions, and so they see a guy like Scorsese and they want to be able to say something to him. Basically, you've got to look at what Cumberbatch said. The people who come out and say funny things, the people like Karen Gillan and Natalie Portman, the sophisticated actors, the Cumberbatches, the whatever you call it, Downey Juniors, see how they respond to what Scorsese said. And then you see a guy like James Gunn, a guy that cracks jokes about kids. He's writing a whole speech about his grandmommy and his granddaddy. Who are you? You're some clown who just came up in this wave of funny stuff. You look at the Russos. When they got past Titanic and when they got past Avatar, James Cameron made a very specific point of thanking or congratulating Kevin Feige on two occasions. And then and then those two guys like knuckleheads then responded. The guy wasn't talking to you. They then responded to Cameron going, "Oh, we love your movies." Guys, chill. He said congratulations to Kevin because he's telling you that what has beaten his movies is 10 years of fantastic hyping. That is Kevin Feige. These guys, time is up. And when Joker hits that billion, you can't put the genie back in.
Oh. So you're saying that Joker will hit a billion?
Joker is going to plateau at about 900. If it sticks in, which I believe it will stick around for the award season, once it starts getting awards, that's going to float it to a billion.
I hope so. So let's hit this other one. It's basically my podcast buddy. Oh god, well, look, I'm gonna ask it because I know what you're gonna say, but I'm gonna ask it. So basically, he's interested and says that I'm very interested to know what Phantom of Hope thinks of a black James Bond.
It's a joke and it's crap. It's a joke and it's a crappy idea and it's slave mentality. 007 is a white celebration character. It's a celebration. It's a celebration of colonialism. It's a celebration of Caucasian Britishness. That is what 007 is. Why should a black man wants to be that? Go do your own thing. Same as women. Charlie Theron, you want to be in you want to go and co-opt Mad Max. Women, you want to go and co-opt Ghostbusters. You want to go and co-opt Terminator. You want to why not just do your own damn thing? Do your own damn thing. These guys don't want you. Why are you sticking your nose in there?
No, for me, no. I mean, I like for me because I even did a video on it like some time ago. But again, just to reiterate my points, pretty much everything that you just said. James Bond is a white character. The essence of him is it goes back to British colonialism, and the very core of him is he is a white upper class English dude. Whether you want to say upper class or not, but he is a white English dude, and making him black again, it's the same crap of as I said, co-opting. Do your own thing. Make your own character.
Sorry. And guys, just for the record, so that people are not under any illusion, I believe that a girl should not be the lead in a Star Wars film for the exact same reason that a black guy should not be 007. Okay? It's as simple as that. Actually, no, even for more, because there are lots more black guys that are probably fans of 007 than there are girls that are fans of Star Wars. So arguments for a black guy, even though there's none really, but there's maybe about 2% more for a black guy being 007. Girls do not like Star Wars. Girls do not like Terminator. Girls do not like He-Man, Thundercats, Transformers, Spider-Man, and this is in general. You will always get exceptions to the rule, but they are minimal. Black people, black guys do not love Star Wars. They simply do not. You will get exceptions to the rule, but the exceptions are minimal. Why should you now make a Star Wars movie with a black guy as the lead? To prove what? Star Wars is not Parliament. Star Wars is not a public service like the bus or like job seekers allowance or like healthcare, where healthcare should be available to all. No, Star Wars is something that was created by a guy because he doesn't get girls. It's created by a guy who doesn't have 300 models on his arm. It's created by a guy who was a loser in school, i.e., George Lucas. If George Lucas was able to get Daisy Ridley as his girlfriend, Star Wars would never exist. Okay?
Oh no. For me, I think, and that is just a hard pill that people will refuse to swallow because of the world that we live in, where everyone has to be inclusive and everything is now sort of like revisionist history and everything, which is just weird. But the fact of the matter is, the lead for Star Wars has to be a white male. I think that Star Wars would help Star Wars if you got a black Jedi or you got an Asian Jedi, but really it's for whites. It's for those young white dudes and white people, white boys, white guys made Star Wars famous because the primary hardcore Star Wars fan base are white dudes. And with regard to the whole James Bond thing, it is a slave mentality, and it is a defeatist losers mentality that you're begging, that you're campaigning, that you're on your knees wanting to be James Bond. That is sad, and it's actually quite frankly embarrassing. You
It is
wanted to be James Bond.
extremely embarrassing. Extremely embarrassing.
Okay, so I think another person asked this other question here. It says that what do you call it? Thoughts on Revenge of the Sith. Your thoughts on Revenge of the Sith.
The Revenge of the Sith, as I said, like Return of the Jedi, on paper, it's great. And the fight between Obi-Wan and Anakin before when it was legendary for 30 years, ever since the end 1983. That fight between Anakin and Obi-Wan was legendary. So the anticipation was high. But when you watch that trilogy, the fight, Darth Maul fight, which is actually probably one of the best fights I've ever seen in my life, was better than Obi-Wan v Anakin. Simply because George Lucas, he overthought it too much, and it became like it was bad choreography, too quick. You couldn't see what was happening. No drama. It was rubbish. So, what in terms of that actual film, what all the stuff that happens in it is cool, but the execution is so rubbish. Hayden Christensen failed as an actor. Natalie Portman was just silly. The actual script, the lines, the dialogue was wooden, was rubbish. But then you see, and that's the thing is like with George Lucas, he has so many good ideas. It's like you take something like General Grievous, that's a bloody good idea. Droid General, half symbiotes, alien merged with exoskeleton, great idea. But look, he's like a cartoon. The CG wasn't up to scratch, but he's relied too heavily on CG. So then you've got a problem because your CG can't stand up to scrutiny. So you essentially have one long protracted cartoon. That's the problem. And then you're going to have the whole situation of, okay, Anakin turns, he becomes, but then look at how quickly he turned. 1 second, you do something bad. Oh, kneel to me, arise, Lord. I mean, come on, man. That's how he turns? Silly. So it's one of those things where it's like the issue with George Lucas, which has always been the case, is that you've got great ideas, nice thinking, but just silly ways of doing things, bad execution, and the day, it's a wasted opportunity because everyone has said it from day one. Ewan McGregor, a bit like Adam Driver. The fact that Adam Driver doesn't make us see that every time I see Ray on, you see this guy, Daisy really has got this new thing that she does where she like flaps her eyelids. It's almost like she's
Daisy Ridley is trash. Daisy Ridley is trash. Trash.
She's literally given up on trying to be anything useful. Now she's just like, I'll just play into my looks. That's what she now is. That is how pathetic she has become. Where they now just focus on her stupid face and she just blinks all day long. This is what J.J. Abrams has reduced Star Wars to, focusing on some little girl's face and her little legs as she's running around with those silly shows that look like olive oil from Popeye. I'm like, nah. That is rubbish, and that isn't Star Wars. Listen, when it comes to Star Wars, take all that crappy sexualization rubbish out of it. We get serious, okay? This is Star Wars. This isn't your little pathetic frat boy, nerdy boy fantasy show, JJ. Okay? You brought your little sexual fantasy to Star Wars. For that, you're going to be eternally called out for. Revenge of the Sith, answer it quite simply, is like missed opportunities. But Revenge of the Sith suffers from sins made in Attack the Clones, which suffer from sins made in whatever you call it. It's like, look at how the guy became Vader. Look at how the guy became, like, George, are you telling me that it's almost like Han Solo, a Star Wars movie. In the space of 4 months, Solo got his name, met Chewie, Lando, got the Millennium Falcon, did the Kessel in one film.
It's a joke. It's a joke.
Nothing of significance happened in Han Solo's life between the end of Solo And when they walked into a pub in A New Hope, come on, man. That's where greed gets you and daftness gets you. In terms of George Lucas, his greed of money. I just have to be able to have a Darth Vader Revenge of the Sith version toy. How can Vader be created and he looks exactly the same, like he came off a factory? Well, actually, he did kind of come off a factory conveyor belt. He looks exactly the same as he did now, as he does in 30 years later. You see, that kind of cynical, merchandising is what kills George Lucas. As they said, Han Solo should have died at the end of Empire. But it's that thing that always wins out in that man's brain that, oh, but I need his toy. He's got to have his toy. How can I sell his toy if he's dead? Young kids don't care if he's dead, so he's got to come back in. And then, you see, and that was the weakness of Return of the Jedi, because everybody's there and everybody's happy. It's stupid. It's stupid. So these are the kind of issues that Revenge of the Sith was suffering from, which is why it was always going to be compromised. But as I'm trying to say before, the biggest enemy and the biggest savior of Star Wars is George. Star Wars is a tragic. It's a self-professing tragedy because the only guy who it can thrive with is the guy who kills it, and that is George Lucas. It was doomed from day one. That's it. It's actually a very sad story because for me as a Star Wars fan, I've been suffering since it started, basically since 1999, because I am not a guy who's going to say it and try to pretend it's good if it's not. This thing that's been trash since 1999.
Yeah, man. Okay, guys. Look, I think that is it for us, man. I mean, we've been. How long have we been going for? We've been going for
About 2 hours.
Yeah, 2 hours. Over 2 hours. So, guys, man, look, man, thank you. Remember, guys, remember to like that vid, share the vid.
Thanks, HH, for having me on your show. Great show.
Oh no! Much better. Thank you for joining the show. So, guys, man, we'll probably try and do. Maybe we'll do one on Game of Thrones. Maybe we'll see. Maybe we'll do one on why Game of Thrones was completely and utterly trash. I think that is a discussion that needs to be had. But okay, so guys, peace out, stay true, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out. Bye, guys.
Cheers.